What up, young slumlords and ladies? This is Jake Lapp, and welcome to the Young Slumlords podcast, where me and Caleb Henshaw talk our shiz and hopefully help spark the idea for finding your financial independence in this paycheck-to-paycheck world. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We got a really special guest. We've been playing up these guests, and we finally got Tony Robbins on the podcast today. Tony Robbins, I'm just kidding. This is Andrew Robbins. He's a bigger deal than Tony Robbins. Another house hacker, was house hacking before it was a thing. He's been investing for the last couple years, and with his full-time job and a full-time real estate agent, there's a lot to his story that I know I can relate with. I know Caleb can too. So we want to hop in and welcome Andrew, man. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited.
Before we get into all your deals and stuff, I wanted to see what started this. How did you hear about real estate, passive income, financial freedom? What started that in you that made you think what, I want something better. I want to, do something different.
Well, it probably started when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised, normal, single mom and everything. And I don't know, I was a kid just thinking of stuff. I didn't want to be anything else. And I said, you know what, one day I just want people to pay me rent. Fast forward, forget about it, do whatever. And I'm working at a restaurant, local restaurant in Souderton, Broad Street Pizza. And I'm working for my boss, Dave. And I just start watching him. So I'm seeing, and we went to high school together. We did everything, you know what I mean? And I start seeing the things that he's doing. He starts buying rentals and doing that. So I'm looking and I'm like, I want to do what you do. And he's like, well, you can. So then it started. I was like, well, I'm going to move out of my house. And he's like, well, why rent if you can buy? So then right around where he bought one of his rentals, I decided to buy my first house.
So how old are you at this point?
I started looking and I started putting it together and, saving at 22.
Okay.
23. Just changed the whole lifestyle. Didn't go out, didn't do anything, didn't buy any clothes, just lived at work, worked all the time, saved up as much as I can.
Yep.
So then it hit, I was 25, I believe. That's when it came and I didn't know anything at all. And somebody tells me, do FHA. So I said, okay, and go through the whole process for the first deal. I'm like, I only have to put 3.5% down. Sounds like a win to me. And subconsciously, I looked up the property value and I went back all the way to early 2000. And I saw the house was worth at one point in time, $207,000 right before 08.
Yep.
And then it went downhill and I followed my boss. So he bought one for he got it off of a flip. Same thing. The area was bad. Somebody went in, bought it, flipped it. So I thought if I could get close to what he bought it, I'll strike gold. Ended up, it came back appraised 115. So I thought, well, even if I own it for however many years, if it goes back up to 200, you can't beat that. I was like, put 3.5% down. So all in all, I think I was in for closing costs and everything, about 15 grand.
Yep.
And then, I lived in there as my first home. Still had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I beat the local rent price by whatever it was, $1,200 at the time. It was you can get a 2-bedroom for $1,200. I was like, I'm saving.
Right.
I'm paying
right.
Not under.
So you're not you at this point, you weren't looking at it okay, if purchase price is this, then I need to make this much rent. If I'm putting this much cash, I should get this type of return. You saw it and you were like, okay, a couple years ago, this was worth 200 some thousand. I can get it for 100,000 and put very little skin into the game. I'm taking that chance. I think we're going to hit that again.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked at it everything else. It went down. It has to go back up.
Yep.
At 115 purchase price, how much lower can you go?
Yeah, for sure.
And unless the house collapses, but you pay to get it inspected. So everything was fine. Everything was great. And I said, well, if I hold it, one day maybe it'll be worth that.
Right.
Did you have any repairs or rehab or anything when you bought the place initially, or was it just turnkey at that point?
No. I mean, it was turnkey in the sense that the person that owned it before me lived there for 20 years. So it was clean, There was no holes or nothing. It was just outdated.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking pink wallpaper.
Mhm.
I had a trash compactor. I had everything that you can imagine. Like my
Yeah.
sink upstairs, I think the whole height of it was probably 20 inches.
Okay.
Wow.
So old. But I knew, all right, well, I'm going to live here. It's cheap. So then I got in and started fixing it while I was in there.
Were you doing all the work yourself?
No. We had a guy that at the time too worked for the pizza shop. So he was like our maintenance guy. So he came in and he looked at it like, we'll use my kitchen. And because he knew me and did work, he gave me a great deal. I mean, we paid people to demo it, as take everything out. There was a local guy. I don't know if he's still alive, but he came by, picked up all the old appliances to scrap them for free. And the guy came in and did my whole kitchen, put it all in, flooring, everything for, you wouldn't even believe, like pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it was side money for him.
Sure.
So he did the whole deal, and I was his helper.
Yeah. So all in, right? Your purchase price is at $115.
Mm-hmm.
Your rehab, like with even getting like a good deal using a buddy, like how much do you think you put in totally into this house?
I wish I would have had the exact numbers.
No, we don't need it exact. Just like
Um,
less than 10, more than 20, under 5.
No, way less than 20. And I mean, I did minimum stuff.
Mhm.
Not minimal. I did my, like, majority of it was in the kitchen. That was it. I kept the shower up in the upstairs bathroom. The downstairs half bathroom was original because it was semi-updated. So I kept the shower. I redid the toilets because, again, not knowing anything, my thought was if I rent it out and I do everything now and update it while I live here, I don't have to touch it for like 10 years.
Yep.
So definitely under 20, probably really maybe around 15. Because, I mean, I redid everything, like the kitchen. I redid the flooring downstairs, added all hardwood floors, new carpet in the whole upstairs, paint, everything, all new appliances, and that's it.
Okay, so let's say we're all in now at 30 grand. Purchase price, FHA loan, rehab, you're in 30 grand. What's your mortgage looking like now?
Still, well, my mortgage still has always, I paid all that stuff out of pocket over the years.
Right.
So I live there, and my mortgage is still only not even $1,000.
Okay. And then, so you were living there, and then you ended up renting to a roommate while you were living there?
Yeah, so while working at the pizza shop, we hired one guy, and he was moving up. He moved from Philly up to Lansdale, and then he was moving up to Lansdale, and he said, I need a room to rent. So my mortgage was roughly $1,000. I already did some stuff. At the time, I didn't do everything. Like I did the kitchen to get in, and then he moved in, and I charged him $600 to rent a room. Not knowing anything, still just going off, okay, you go rent something. I took the rent price. It's $1,200, cut it in half, $600. I said, you can just pay me that. So I charged him one flat fee, and I saved every dollar he ever paid me.
Nice. How was that process then, or like that relationship of like having just a borderline stranger just living in your house with you?
Well, we worked together, so it was fun, but at the same time, I set up the rules. I said, hey, work is work, home is home. And he was fine with that because he's never home. So I worked at the time at the restaurant 70 hours a week. He worked 60 hours a week. My day off, he wasn't home. His day off, I wasn't home. So he looked at it like, I'm paying $600 to live here, and I get the whole house to myself on my day off.
Right.
So it was like a perfect thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so you have this house, and you're living for like almost for free. You're
Right.
paying a couple $100 a month for this place. And then what's next for you then? Like, what's your mindset after that? I'm sure you probably got the bug. You're like, I'm just getting money every month, just for somebody to live at this place. Like, how does your mindset shift there, and what's your next steps going forward?
So at the time, I still researched nothing about real estate. Look at nobody. I'm just thinking I'm saving up all this money. Maybe one day, say in 5 years, I'll pay the house off. And I'm like, that's a win. He ends up getting a girlfriend and just decides to move out. Not even though my mortgage is nothing, for some reason, fear struck me. And I was like, now I got to pay for this whole thing myself. I was just doing it before anyway. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to borrow against the house. So I take out a HELOC. And I think I've only owned it for like a year and a half to 2 years. And I said, I'm going to rent it out. Just going based off what my boss rented the place out, I'm going to go rent it out. And I'm going to go buy something else. And just like that, took pictures myself, knew nothing. Took pictures. I went to the bank, got a HELOC, and I said, I'm going to use the HELOC. Like I figured out the numbers in my head. And I was like, so I owe $1,000, I'm going to get a HELOC. And whatever I purchase, my rent profit is going to pay back the HELOC.
Yep.
So someday I'm going to have 2 places, but not pay anything.
Sure.
And that's what I did. So I took the pictures, posted it up on Craigslist, knew nothing, met my tenants. It was like I was sitting there nervous because I think I was at 27 at the time. And I'm like, I don't know if this is a scam, if people are going to show up or not. It's just me sitting in a place, decided to rent it out and getting ready to move back in with my parents again until I moved to the next deal, which happened to be a duplex then. So, and then I think I lost money on that one.
So with the HELOC, how much were you able to pull out?
30 grand.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
So it appraised high because like you barely had any skin in the game, right? Like you put 3.5% down. So it just, the market increased the value and you were able to pull that equity then.
Right.
So you said a year and a half after you bought the house, you got the HELOC?
Maybe 2 years at max.
So that's like probably only like a few $1,000s of principal, like if that you paid. Mostly you're paying interest in the beginning of the loan anyway.
Yeah, with the FHA, there's like no
principal.
But he increased the value by doing the kitchen, doing the hardwood floors, doing all
the
that
sweat
stuff.
equity,
right.
Definitely.
And I guess what happened was my boss bought one house, I bought another one, and somebody else sold 2. So that took
comps,
all 3 of those, and then the value started slowly going up. And
did they send an appraiser for the HELOC?
No, banks are wonderful for that. So if nobody has one or whatever, you need to go with a credit union ASAP, because for some reason, credit unions or local banks, I have no idea why. I don't even think they send anybody out.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they just go based on, to keep it safe, they go based on, they're like, okay, are you living there? I said, yes, because I was at the time. And they just pretty much pulled the Zillow profile. They asked me, I said, I redid this, and this, showed the pictures on my phone. And they said, how much do you want? And I said, 30 grand. And they were like, well, we don't know if it'll actually appraise at that. Sure enough, it came back. It appraised at that.
That's awesome. So now with taking that HELOC, what did your monthly payment change from, under 1,000 to what?
Under 1,000. My max, this is the reason I did it. So my max was like, say, 950 just for numbers. With the HELOC maxed out, my payment would be 250, right? So I just thought, even if I break even, but I still had that rough $100. So I said, I'm still making $100 profit. So my rent that I charged for the new place, the profit from the mortgage paid my HELOC. And I thought, well, now they're going to pay for me to move. So I'm like, this is almost like a no-brainer. Mind you, at the time still, I knew nothing about house hacking, what any of this was.
Right.
How'd you get the idea of the HELOC? Was that from your boss as well?
No. So now at the time, I start watching other people, because so what's going on at the restaurant is everybody's miserable. They're complaining about life. So I start looking at like rich and wealthy people. So I start following people like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, all these other people. And I don't know how I came by it. I just saw something that said HELOC, right? And everybody's a numbers person. So I looked, I'm like, my interest rate on the house is low. You give me a HELOC, whatever it was at the time, it was like 3%. So I'm like, okay, I'm paying 6%. All I cared about was the payment. So I'm like, it's a line of credit. All right, you're going to give it to me, and I make payments, and I keep the money still. So I waited, I thought about it, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it because I can have 2 houses. So I did it. And I'm not even thinking about like in 4 or 5 years. I'm thinking 15.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, 15 years, I'll have 2 houses. Most people don't even have one. So I'm thinking long term.
Yeah.
And that's why I did.
So during this time, like, there's so many, like, you follow all these investors and you figure out all the rules and stuff that people are doing and everything. Like, now you're looking back and you're seeing, now you're familiar with like
Mhm.
the rules and what the investors and everyone says and stuff. So now looking back at that, you're basically, your payments are rough 1,200. Your rent is rough 1,200 as well, or 1,300.
1,300, yeah.
So you've got that $100 buffer, that $100 cash flow in case things go wrong.
Right.
Have you came in the last few years, like, have you came into something that, like, oh shit, the heater or the roof or some bigger ticket item needs to be addressed and now I got to take care of this? Or have you been fortunate enough to not?
That came now.
Okay.
That came now. But at the time, so when I moved into the duplex, I ran the numbers again and I said, by me buying the duplex, I'm living for less than I would my single family home.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the duplex. That's it. Still going solely based off monthly payment.
Yep.
As I need to pay someplace to live. And, I hear people say, you should never own, you should rent. Well, I looked at it like, well, I'm beating the rent price, so why not? Then I decided to do the same thing again in the duplex. Put a door up, get another coworker. Now I'm literally living for like $100
Mm-hmm.
and just banking everything. And still haven't put any money out at all.
Right.
Haven't fixed anything up, haven't done anything.
What was that recent thing that you mentioned about your single family house that went?
So jump forward now. I move into my condo and that I live at now. All still purchased off the first HELOC.
Yep.
Right. But now, for everybody, if they don't know, when you have multiple homes, you can jump your HELOCs around. So you can open up another HELOC, pay this one off, clear it, move the money. So then I went back to the first home, cleared the HELOC off just by opening it up on a second one. Did a cash out refi only because I heard about it on YouTube and pandemic hit. So I was like, I can take advantage of pulling equity out. I'm going to do it. So they came out and I think I did this 6 months to, like 7 months ago. So I owed on the first home now only 98 grand. They did a cash out refi and I think it was somewhere between 14 and 16 grand. So whatever I initially put down years ago, all came back.
Yeah.
And I used that to pay down on my HELOC because of what I'm getting ready for. So now I know I own it. They told me the roof. They told me the gutters. I'm driving by the home. I'm looking at it. The roof is bad. You're missing shingles. The black roof is now grayish white.
Mm-hmm.
Time to redo the roof.
Yep.
The only thing I haven't done on that house so far is siding and the HVAC. But new roof, new gutters.
Yeah.
Did that. So I took the cash out, paid down my loan, and somehow my mortgage stayed the same.
Right.
Wow. I mean, I'm guessing your interest rate dropped quite a bit. You getting those COVID rates that everyone's been getting recently.
Which is what I think helped the monthly payment.
Oh yeah,
So
7 months ago, that was prime
Yeah, it was
time.
prime time. Yeah, that's when I got my mortgage too, and I got under a 3%. It was like a 2.7, and like the world record low is 2.4. It's like that was
Right.
that was prime time for loans. So it looks like you got like real creative with your financing, and like have been still this whole time. Are you still working at the restaurant currently?
Still working at the restaurant, 40 to 50 hours a week, still doing real estate, which I just started the agent side because of, I think it was the one post that I put up that maybe got your attention or not. I wrote on, how to grow, just telling people if you decided to take 5-6 years out of your life and move, just by moving, you could gain rentals. And then if you use it right and you use the equity, you never have to figure out and do 20, 25% down.
Mm-hmm.
You just move as long as you follow the guidelines, as in, FHA, it's 1 year. So you have to be there for a year. After a year, you can move.
So it looks like the approach you were taking was to HELOC out of your current residence and then use that money to buy your next house and just keep floating yourself along? Or like, were you saving up continuously during that time as well to try and, get as much cash as you possibly could to use that to then get your next deals?
Yeah, I'm saving up the whole time. I'm not living tight. I'm saving up. I'm using the cash I'm using my cash as an emergency.
Yeah.
But I want to do everything within the HELOC because I don't want to overextend, and I never want to over leverage a property. I never want to do any of that. So everything is still off the first home.
Yep.
My cash is for emergencies. You know, you got to pay for an appraisal. Okay, I pay for it with cash. You need to buy this, do that with my income. Other than that, it's all been off the first one.
Wow.
And I do a lot of refis. You know, I look at the numbers every day. Every day. I look at it, not every day. I mean, you know, once a month, check, see, call my broker. Can we do something? Yes, no, and go from there.
We kind of skimmed past it, but I want to get into the duplex because you said that you added a door on there and started renting it. So was it zoned as a duplex? Was there two separate units? How, like, go through the whole duplex with us.
Yeah, so the duplex, when I bought it, after I bought the first one and was getting in it, now I'm getting more into the game. So when I bought the duplex at the time, it's probably sat on the market for 100 days.
Yep.
Because any other investor, you're not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I mean, the lady lived upstairs. She had a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. She was paying $650 a month, you know, and the place was old. It was built in 1920, so everything's old. You have to do pretty much almost a full gut. But I'm saying I'm going to live there. So I'm supposed to fix it up as I go on. So I live downstairs in the 1-bedroom. And now that I know everything, I should have bought the duplex first.
Right.
So if I tell anybody now, you buy the duplex first.
Yep.
Especially if you have your FHA. Always buy the duplex first because I had to put 15% down just by moving into it, but I already used my FHA.
Yep.
So that's what killed me, putting that much money down. But it was the same. So it was the same as the upstairs, square footage wise, just downstairs. So I have 1 bedroom, but this whole big place that I decided, well, I have a coworker. He needs a room. I put a door up. I said, I already work 70 hours. He works 70 hours too. If I make this work for a year, I can save up so much money and I can fix the place up great.
Yep.
So that's what it was, already zoned as a duplex. But what I'm going to do to it is going to change the whole profile of it.
What?
And go ahead.
Are you thinking of actually changing it to a triplex or?
No, because so now that I look at it, I try to figure out where I can add value without changing and going the route of excessive permits.
Yep.
So the fact that the downstairs is only a 1-bedroom and the upstairs is 2, but the floor layout, you know, when you look at it, it's stacked similar. So I'm going to change the inside to the front door is going to have a hallway to go upstairs, and I'm going to add a bedroom downstairs. So I'm going to change the downstairs from a 1-bedroom, put up a couple walls, and make it a 2.
Yep.
So now then you have your rent going from $800 north of anywhere between $1,100 to $1,500. You know what I mean? Especially in today's market.
Right.
And then you have your resale value of, instead of having a 3-bedroom duplex, you're a 4-bedroom.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to cash out a lot on that one.
Right. Yeah. No, that will definitely add a lot of value with not a lot of work. You're getting $650 from the upstairs tenant. What's your roommate giving you then in the bottom unit?
$400.
So,
well, hold on. So the minute I bought the place and they showed me how much her rent was, I immediately went in and wrote a letter and said, because I was supposed to do it in increments, and I didn't want to lose the tenant right away. So I told her right away, your rent's going from $650 to $800. That's a huge jump.
Sure.
In anybody's, you know, and she agreed. So then she started, and luckily I made settlement October. So I made settlement in October. I told her that it was going to change and start in the new year, which somehow happened to work perfectly. So she's paying $650. I get a roommate right away. He's paying me $400 a month. So that's $1,000. And my mortgage was $1,400. So I'm only paying $400.
Yep. And then the new year hit, and then you get the increase. So now you're only paying $200.
$200.
Yep.
Then the real hacking starts. He tells me he's got a friend that lives in North Carolina. He wants to bring him up here. So I was living in the front half. He was living in the back. So he brings his friend up, we switch, and he starts renting it out to his friend. So I said the rent has to go up. Now I'm living for free.
Yep.
So now they decide to share a room up front. I'm living in the back for free. And that's when I decided, he said, well, how much to rent the whole place? So I said, well, let me start looking now. I already, because I was not paying any rent, I'm paying back my HELOC, paying it back. So I found my condo. Again, only staying right around the price point of $150,000 because you can't really go much lower. In Souderton, Telford, Sellersville, how much lower can you go?
Right.
So now I buy my condo. There was 3 properties at the time. The one I live in and 2 others. It was 150, 155, and 160. Of course, I went for the 150. And the 150 looked nicer than the rest of them. So I went for 150, and I told my agent, I told my roommate, I said I'm only going to put one offer out, just one. I'll give you asking, you cover my seller's assist. If they don't, I'm fine living where I live.
Yep.
They took it right away. I said, I'll settle in whatever amount that they want, short, long, whatever they want to do. I said, because it was a condo and now it's my 3rd deal, I said, I own the walls in. I don't need an inspection because the roof, 2nd floor, there's no foundation. What are you going to do? Turn on the faucet and check the outlets?
Right.
So I waived it. I said, I'll waive inspection. Just worry about the appraisal. And sure enough, they accepted. We settled. I think it was like 40 days later.
Yep.
Then I moved to the condo.
So now condo is 150. What's your mortgage and like the HOA? Because that's what the horror stories that we hear about condos are all associated with that HOA, and that it can fluctuate and, they're putting a new roof on and now my HOA just doubled or whatever it is. Like, how does that actually look for you?
So still going back to the original number, flirting with that $1,200 rent number.
Mm-hmm.
My mortgage is, we'll just call it $1,000. It's like $990.
Yep.
My HOA is $260.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit above that, but Sellersville screwed me. The part that I didn't look at, thinking that I live in a condo, Sellersville charges you for trash.
Yeah, Sellersville is heavy on the trash too. It's
Exactly.
like $80 a month or something? Crazy.
It's not that high, but their water, sewer, and trash, I think trash automatically is still quarterly, but it's still $90.
Mm-hmm.
So that's $90 that when I get my water and sewer. So mind you, I'm used to Telford.
Mm-hmm.
My water bill was like $100, $120.
Yeah.
Every quarter.
Yep.
Now I move here. I have an HOA fee that I'm paying of $260. Then I get a water bill. My first water bill with sewer and trash was like $280.
Wow.
And in this game, every dollar counts, no
For
matter
sure.
what.
For sure.
So I'm calling, I'm fighting with them. I'm like, your numbers are wrong. They're wrong. There's no way. I was arguing about trash. They're like, you live in the Muse? I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, we charge you for trash.
Mm-hmm.
Missed that in my numbers.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So then when I got in here and after all that, I said, you know what? I don't even think I'm going to rent this out because at the time I'm thinking I'm paying 13, rounding up, 13. I got to charge 16. I don't even know, percentages, nothing. I'm like, I need to make at least $300.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay $1,600 for, a 2-bedroom? I'm like, I have to sell. Then I start really digging into this game and realize there's 2-year minimum for
capital
selling
gains.
a property.
Yeah.
Had no idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Still. So I'm like, I'm only going to live here for 2 years, right? Now we're in the pandemic too. What's going on? Property values going straight up.
Yeah.
So now fast forward all the way to here. I'm here. I already did the cash out refi.
First of all, how much did you put down? Did you do 5% down on the 150?
5, yeah.
Yeah. So that was
So
pretty cheap then.
Down. Was it?
How much was it out of pocket then?
16 grand.
Yeah.
I think another like 16,000.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that straight from the HELOC from the other house?
Yeah.
Your duplex?
Yeah, same thing. Straight from the HELOC, because when I was in the duplex paying cheap rent or paying, myself cheap, I was throwing all my money at the HELOC.
Mm-hmm.
And, if anybody doesn't know, when you have a HELOC, once you make that first payment, anything after, you're not paying interest. So I was so far out on my payments, I never paid interest.
Mm-hmm.
Because every time I would get paid, I would just use it and go right to my HELOC, right to my HELOC, right to my HELOC. So then when the bank's telling me, they're like, oh, you're out so far. My normal payment, they can only go out was like 3 months. I'm paying 7 months past that and paying it down so far that I just did the same thing. Used the HELOC, bought this. So there's never been a question of like, do you have the money? Where's it coming from? Where's this?
Right.
It's all from the.
You just walked into another local bank, like, hey, I got another duplex. I want to pull out a HELOC, and they're like, just pull it up on Zillow and just called it a day and just gave you some money, or like.
So my parents work at Merck, and because of that, I got into Merck Sharp and Dome Credit Union.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all through the credit union. So I built a rapport with them, right? I mean, I have a credit card with them. Now I have checking accounts, different accounts for my bank. So they're seeing money come in. I'm coming in. They're asking me, what do you do? I say I have rentals and all that. Now they know. So now going back, pandemic hits. Did the cash out refi already. Get paid. Merck has a thing. So I live in my condo now. Merck has a 1.99% fixed rate on a HELOC, but they won't give it to me on my other one. At the time, I only had one. So now I take out another HELOC on the condo at 1.99%. It's like free money.
Right.
So now I take that, pay the lump sum on there to cut the interest rate, and start throwing money at the first one because it's only 1.99%. And when you make your big lump sum payments, it cuts the interest rate down crazy. So now I'm in the process of pay back the one HELOC and enter into what's going to happen next.
Yeah. So just so like to catch everyone up, right? You've got your single family that's renting for $1,300. Your mortgage is $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
We've got your duplex that now. What are you renting the downstairs now that you rented the whole thing out for?
So back to the duplex. Also in the middle of the pandemic, I decide to redo my floors in my condo. The upstairs lady tells me she's sick and she's not going to finish out she's no longer lives there. For 3 months, she didn't live there, but still paid. So I'm talking to her brother. We're going back and forth. I said, you got to finish out the lease. He said, well, what can we do after that? Luckily, I said, you're done at the end of December. So now I'm panicking though, too, because what's going on. We're in the middle of the pandemic.
Oh, dude, you would find a tenant so quick, man. It's like even middle of pandemic, dude, they'll line up. I'm serious.
But at the time,
right.
I didn't.
Right.
Right. All I'm hearing is nobody's paying rent. Nobody's doing that.
Right.
So, and I'm like, I have to now go back into this place and do work. And so people realize, follow the timeline. I moved in here in October. I started, I think it was October. So a couple months later, now I have to redo the whole upstairs. So I have to put all the cash back into it.
Yep.
Right. So I fix it up. I put flooring down in there, new carpet, new flooring, same thing. Keep the bathroom and the shower because it's one of those solid old tubs, but new vanity, new toilet, same flooring. I kept the cabinets because they look fine, new countertop, all that. Put an ad up on Craigslist again, not realizing anything. So I put an ad up I'm like, just guessing, 1,100. I had 13 people call me.
Oh, I'm sure. If you put on Facebook Marketplace, within 2 days, you would have had like 200 people for $1,100 in Telford.
Now I realize that happens,
right.
You up the rent.
Right.
And anything happens like that, now that enter the agent part, you see, and when you look around, and I can go to the MLS and see there is nothing, I would have taken full advantage of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even without the MLS right now, you can check out like rent.com, apartments.com, Zillow.
And there's nothing.
There's nothing available.
So whatever you put up is going to rent. You know what I mean? Like it.
And that's the part. I talked to somebody else trying to gain their business, and he told me, yeah, you left a lot of money on the table on your last 2 rentals. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're right, I did. Like, and it's gone. You're never going to get it back. But I rented it. Guy moved in right away. I luckily didn't miss any payments.
Yep. Yeah, and a good tenant's worth it too. Like,
yeah, a good tenant is definitely worth an extra $100 a month. Versus a bad tenant who A, doesn't pay, or B, constantly is calling you, having all tons of problems with the property. Huge headaches.
Right. And no, my tenant now, he's great. It's just him and his daughter. That's it. So when I vetted him, that was one of my questions. I'm like, where do you work? Well, he works at Godshall Meats. locally also. He's like, my daughter goes to school at Indian Crest. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
This is like perfect. Hasn't bothered me
Yep.
at all. He's like, if I see something, I'll either let you know or I'll try to fix it myself. Perfect.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, he knows for $1,100 he got a great deal. 'Cause
Exactly.
everyone, looking for rentals knows how expensive things are now and how hard it is to get stuff.
Yeah.
Which is now. But see, when I signed him up, at the time, I'm like panicking. I'm like,
Right,
are they
right.
not going to pay me? Are they going to give me, $3,000 up front and just tell me, oh, I can't pay?
Right.
Because you don't know. You're listening to the news, you're doing
Mm-hmm.
this and that. And no, luckily, I got it rented.
So you got upstairs rented for 11, and then what's downstairs?
8. So now
8.
we're up to 9.
And your mortgage on that one is what, like 14?
Still 14. I haven't touched it.
Cool. So now we're positive $600. 2 properties are paying for themselves, and you're in this condo. Or do you have a roommate in the condo?
No, I live with my girlfriend.
Okay. So now you're pretty much, what's that? 600. Your mortgage on the condos.
You're like 13
12,
all in.
13.
Yeah.
13. So you're paying $600 a month to have your own place, and 3 houses are building equity over time, sustaining themselves.
Right.
You can't do it better. You know what I mean? Like that's the game. That's what we're.
I mean, sure,
after.
you could have squeezed a couple extra $100 out of tenants. So, like theoretically, that was possible to get more money out. But who knows? Like, what kind of a situation you would be in now if you got bad tenants for that price. And as well, you're still doing just fine. Having those tenants in for slightly lower than market. Like, it's just everything's been working out for you. Just kind of flying by the seat of your pants almost. Like, not doing any research initially.
Right. Now I look back and I research and I see everything. It's not what I did. I learned from what I did. Right.
Yep.
It's what's going to happen. So I already reached out to the tenant from my first house to see if they want to buy it from me. And I'm waiting to hear back from them. The condo that I live in, because I find these little loopholes, the condo I'm selling immediately in October because I'll hit my 2-year mark. So then I realized the minute you have an FHA and you cash out refi it, which I did, pulled all the equity, so now I own the home, the first house, no money out, you get your FHA back.
Yep.
And like I said, I've ruined the duplex. So from doing the duplex, now that I know, I'm going to sell this house, keep this money tax-free.
Yep.
2-year rule. I'm going to sell off the first home that I got my FHA back now as an investment. So the profit from there goes into the 1031. The profit from the condo goes into my pocket, and then I FHA a 3 to a 4 unit.
Yep.
Whatever deal I can find out there.
Yep.
Then I move into that one.
So I'm curious why you're selling both. Like I could see selling the condo because you don't think it's realistic to cash flow to make your numbers work on the condo. But if you sold the condo in this hot market because you hit your 2-year mark and then just took that and 1031 to the next one.
Well, the condo you wouldn't need 1031 because it's 2 years.
Oh, so it would.
Right.
There would be none anyway. So, but you just think instead of cash flowing $100 on the one property, you can get more cash flow allocating that money somewhere else.
So right now, going back to the first one, after cash out refi, I probably owe $122,000. I'll probably net, mind you too, now I'm my own agent. So I'll probably net what I want, somewhere between 40 to 50 grand.
Yep.
Now, still follow. So I move into the 4 unit. I'll net 40 to 50, 1031 that. I'll net the condo from now is roughly worth 190 to 200. So I'll net another 50 on that.
Yep.
So the 50 goes in my pocket. I put 3.5% down on the what is called a 3 unit.
Triplex, quad, either one.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Throw whatever number you want out. I still have money left over after that.
Yep.
Then you roll the 50 from the first one over to another triplex. But the 20% down is 60 if it's 300 grand.
Yep.
That's where the condo comes in because the leftover money from the condo, you have to attach the boot on to the 1031.
Yep.
That's why.
That makes sense.
I know.
But,
well, it's pretty simple. It's just the opportunity cost of how much equity you have tied up in these 2 single family, massive income producing properties. Like both are single family houses, like single units. So if you can go into a triplex, which we all know the more units a building has, the more cash flow it has, because the difference between a 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit is only a couple $100. But like you're still getting like a minimum $800 for the single, like for the 1-bedroom. So like the more units you have, the more money you get for like the whole building. So you're just pretty much just leveraging your money to work better for you, selling the houses.
Yeah.
Because in the end, I want to go commercial.
Yep.
In the end, I want to go big units.
Yep.
But who has the money? Say, you look at $1 million property, you're going to put $250,000 down.
Yep.
How long is that going to take?
Yep.
Yeah, unless you got a syndication, that's like a lifetime
Forever.
of working. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I don't like working with anybody else. Obviously, I only have 3,
Right.
but leveraged and done right and moving and taking time out, by 2020, we're in 21 now, 22, I'll probably have 8 to 10. And then by the time I'm 35, I'll have 20.
Yep.
And then, it's the same process, only because I'm going to get rid of everything and take the whole lump sum at one big commercial, because you can add value so much more than residential.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially like your strategy now is capitalizing on the appreciation we're seeing from these buildings, like getting in for a low down payment and then, walking away with all the appreciation to then, get the bigger units. And then I'm guessing the strategy continues to then, take those triplexes or quads to then turn those into, say, a 20-door apartment building or something like that. That would be a commercial, that the value of it is no longer, comped from single family homes in the area, but how much income it produces, which is much more cut and dry. You can put water meters in every apartment and, add a ton of value, like actual value, because there's more income, because, the tenants are paying for their own water instead of you, stuff like that.
Right.
It's just more of an investing situation, like an equation versus, what kind of backsplash you have in the kitchens.
Exactly. And like you just said, the equation, the number one thing that I've seen so far, even just being new to the agent part, people get wrapped up in this equation, and the equation is not realistically, it's not a hard equation. Residential, let's be honest, how much are you really dealing with a cap rate? It's a number, you know what I mean? I think people panic about the market, and they're looking and they're trying to do this. Okay, I'm going to put money down. When am I going to get my return? If the market and this and that, it's residential. One person may not pay you the rent, but somebody will. And the one thing that I should have learned, if I would have teamed up with an agent or whatever, you pay them a small fee. You give them a month, and they tell you hey, up the rent, don't up the rent, because they get paid more. And yeah, a month is a lot, but for the money that I lost, I would have paid the month.
Right.
Yeah. And at least, especially for, going for the future, we always just comp it with local places on Zillow. If we can find them, that's the biggest problem, though, is not being able to find available rentals. So we try and find past ones or something like that.
I get it with the residential market and the single families. It's based on comp. It's based on feelings. It's not based on numbers. And that drives me crazy. And that's why I stick to multifamily. But at the same time, multifamily is still residential. It's still based on comps. People still will list based on what their neighbor got. And it's it's an investment property. It's just a little scale on a commercial unit. That's the only way my mind looks at it. I look at it, what it can produce, what my expenditures are, and what I'm going to put down on it, and what my monthly payments are going to be.
I think there could be more fluctuations in the residential market, though, because say if you have a quad and a huge single family next to it gets sold, to a cash buyer for way over market value, that's now a comp for selling your quad.
It's not a comp for the quad.
You don't think
the single family won't be, because
they don't.
Yeah, it's based on other quads. But what we're seeing right now is people are in this scare. Went from 12% cash on cash being their threshold to okay, it's a bad market, but 6% still good, and have money to just throw it in a safe thing, and they're doing it at cash 6%, and now that's your comp. the investor who doesn't need a crazy return anymore. So it's like, for us, it's like, no, dude, like I need a good return. We're still seeing 30% returns from what we're doing, but it's different. Like it's I don't know. It drives me crazy because you can't reason with someone that way too. If another duplex sold for higher, that's what they're going to sell theirs for.
Yeah, and like the numbers for are important based on like what the strategy is. So for us, we're trying to like create this income snowball that we can use to like just make our lives better as fast as we can and just like create as much financial control over our lives, versus like a massive corporation with a pension fund just needs to lock up a safe return. And like they're going to take a lesser return on a house compared to us, like where we're like scraping together, like, well, if we charge an extra $50, we'll be able to pay ourselves back in like an extra month, one less month or whatever. It's like trying to like squeeze as much out of these as we can, so it's the competition is going to be a little rough. But, as we just posted an episode this morning, where we're talking about Jake's new deal here. With as crazy as things are, they're still out there. Good deals are still out there. Just duplex in Quakertown. I'm mad. I would have loved that place for myself, but yeah, he got it.
I think I missed by not. I said to myself I was going to take this whole year off. Not even before the pandemic. I said I need to fix up. I need to do this. I need to pay myself back, not get, crazy. I think I missed 4 good things because all the triplexes in the area have roughly gone for $300,000. And I mean like 2 bedrooms and a 1 bedroom.
I just missed out on one in Souderton that sold for over $495, a triplex.
Where, on Main Street?
Green Street.
Oh, okay.
It was beautiful. It was like a really gorgeous place. We went in on one of the other episodes, but like I put an offer in. It wasn't that great of an offer. In this market, sellers don't want to see FHA, and I was going the FHA route, either FHA or FHA 203K, but a lower amount, because then I would have to do either like they take care of it with the FHA or a lower amount, and or seller assist, and they were just like, they didn't even entertain it.
Like, was it cash? No? Okay, no.
and they sold. I knew 3 other people who put offers in, above $450 for this triplex in Souderton, and none of them got it. So we'll wait until settlement, but I'm assuming it went over 5.
See, and like I said, so we know Telford. I saw a triplex right 3 houses down from where Hats is. There was a white triplex right there. They listed it for $300, but it needed work. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you take the comp of the one in Souderton.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing this one. I like that property a lot. That did not last long. That was gone within a week.
And then if you notice, right across the street, that 4-unit, diagonally across from it, there was a 4-unit that went up for sale for $499.
Yep.
All 2-bedroom, 1 baths, row, just set up. Missed that one too.
Yep.
Triplex, Quakertown, $299. Now, fast forward, I didn't even.
That's realize the same sellers for the triplex in Quakertown for $299. That's who I just bought. They sold another duplex, and I picked that up. The same sellers though.
Yeah, that triplex in Quakertown looked great.
It was in a flood zone though, which was weird.
I don't touch those.
Yeah.
Some people I know do. They don't care. I don't touch them because of the insurance.
Yeah, I know. But no, it is crazy, dude. The market's nuts, but there's still deals to be had. You know what I mean? If you can make it work, they're there.
And you can capitalize it. Like, you got in beforehand, you got some single family houses, which are like the cream of the crop right now, the single families. And if you can take those and get that, $50K per that you're, estimating, that can really be used to, like grow and, build that income snowball. And then if you do get a couple of triplexes, FHA may be a little bit rough just because like all the places around here, these quads, like everyone we've seen, FHA would be a nightmare, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
For most of these places of just like the back and forth of trying to get it fixed up to pass. But if that did all work out, like the amount of income you'd be getting in just from an extra 6 to 8 units per that would be insane.
Yeah. That's my whole plan for this year was doing the 4-unit with the FHA, really maximizing the FHA and doing that to the fullest. And just the market told me no. You know what I mean? The FHA is not the move right now. But it will be
Once they start sitting.
once they start sitting and sellers become a little motivated. Why would a seller do FHA when they have no motivation? Because they've got conventional and cash offers.
Yeah, and sometimes I think too, I'm like, what do you? I think it depends too. Like, I look all over now. I don't just stick Satterton Telford, right? Like we said, the agent part, I go anywhere. So then if I go to look at my own deal, right, I really dig into it. And if it pops up and just the number itself looks good, I call the agent right away.
Yep.
Like I would call right away and be like, let's make this happen today. You want to go over asking, whatever. Then I try to figure out how I'm going to structure the deal.
Yep.
Like if I need seller's assist, FHA, even doing some deals on the real estate side.
Yep.
They still ask me, hey, would you mind paying for this for FHA? So you can still do the backdoor deals by saying like, hey, if it's not going to pass for FHA, I'll pay the repairs for FHA.
Yeah. And that was kind of my move with the 203K loan, like the rehab portion.
Yeah.
But for me, like I'm so accustomed to doing the work myself at these places that like finding a contractor that has the time to do, this whole slew in this 60-day window or whatever it is, like it's hard right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I know a lot of them, and it's like, dude, give a guy a month notice. There's no way. If they have any bit of reputation, they're booked out for the rest of the year because good help is so hard to find right now.
Yeah, it is. And everything's so far, like they say that the market is crazy, that this and that. Nobody's appraising. Dude, appraisers are booked out like 40, 50, 60 days.
Yeah.
Inspectors are booked out. Like,
yeah.
How was it getting that stuff for your duplex?
So surprisingly very smooth. It was like when I called the inspector, and I've used Musselman for all mine, and they're I think the best. They're like the top dogs. They do a really good job, and they
shout out to Dave and Dave.
Shout out to both Daves. They were like, yeah, we could be out today. Like when I called, they're like, yeah, we could be out in 3 hours. Like I guess they just had like a lull in their scheduling.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
But so it worked out really good with them. And then the appraisal, I haven't gotten back yet, but I have zero concern of the property appraising for the purchase price.
Anything other than what you said it would be.
Right.
Yeah.
My inspection was smooth. My appraisal, they paid for it right away. Mm-hmm. And that waited, I think it was almost like 11 days before the appraiser came out.
Mm-hmm.
So normally, in a normal market, you pay for the appraisal, they're out almost the next day or the day after.
Right.
Like they're good. No, this was 11 days.
Right.
And it's crazy. But like you said, there's deals to be made. I've been telling people, think of these options. This is what started the whole posts that I do.
Right.
If you're living in a single family home, rent it out, move, downsize, live in it for 2 years, sell it then, or refi it, move to a duplex, move in. Like you got to rethink.
Yeah. That's all we're pushing on this podcast is just thinking in that term. Like that's why we like guys like you to come on, because both of us are doing the same thing. All the steps that you just said that you took, we've been doing the same thing. Like and we're trying to build like a community of guys and girls like us who have made this like rewiring in our brain to just see the opportunity and the ability. And like, you're talking about some HELOC stuff that I've never really considered. I've never looked into doing that. Whether I'm going to do that or not doesn't matter. It's more so like now that's another tool in my repertoire, in my thinking of like possibilities down the road.
And especially for people who like aren't able to make a lot of money at their day job to save up, to buy a house if they already own a property and like they're just sinking, $1,200-$1,300 a month into a mortgage. If they can HELOC it out, grab a duplex, and then, erase what they're spending every month with that rental income, that's a huge tool that, they've been sitting on for years and they didn't even know they had it. So like stuff like that, like especially with the local banks being able, I've thought about doing that. I always thought you needed a lot more equity than what it sounds like from
he's getting these appraisals high compared to what he's buying them for, right?
So the main thing is, right, like the part of, because you guys said a lot of stuff that I like to touch on there, right? So the reason I became the agent is because, the Souderton Telford area. Some people come for money. A lot of people, though, don't. They're just your working class family.
Yeah.
So that's all I am. So I became the agent so that way I can take people on this ride of, hey, you can do it all with equity. You can do it all with moving. And then I've came across people that didn't even realize. Like, we did an open house. I reached out to another guy. He was like, oh, I like it, but we got turned down. I said, what offer did you put in? He already has an agent, right? But he had no idea about this. So he said, well, I used a VA loan. Now, to us, you hear VA loan, you're like, well, so I'm like, you ever think about buying a duplex? He's like, yeah, I definitely would. I'm like, you can use your VA loan on a duplex. But he's already got an agent, so I'm just telling him for free.
Yep.
Like, no, he never even told me that.
Right.
And I'm like, you just have to rethink what you're doing. You could have easily taken a VA loan, practically no money down, moved in, bought a duplex, and then a year later refied it. But they don't, people don't realize that you can refi over and over and over again as many times.
Yeah.
And then real estate's the same thing with the bank. You get in with the bank, you build a rapport with them. You don't overdraw, you don't do this, you don't do that. You get in with the bank, 9 times out of 10, the appraisal is going to give you what you paid for it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you live in like a nice cookie cutter development, if the next property sells for way higher, go right to the bank.
Yeah.
Right after they close, go right to the bank.
So I wanted to ask you, when we first started talking, you had like just gotten your license, like within weeks. So I think we're now like a few months since you've gotten your license?
I'll tell you exactly. Today is
22nd.
22nd. So I officially got my license April 17th.
Okay.
May 7th, my first deal was done.
Nice.
Well, not done. It was accepted.
You got your offer accepted, right?
Right. I'm waiting to figure out when the settlement date is within these next 2 weeks. And I was like, let me wait, because my very first person that, he doesn't know it yet, but my very first person that I met showing him a rental, no other agent decided to ask him for a pre-approval. He is legit like $100 shy of a cosigner to get $170,000, and he was going to go rent a place for $1,650.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, because of the fact that, I bought FHA and all that, I said, well, let's wait and see. We're going to run his credit again in like a week. So next month, as soon as that happens, his cosigner, who's his little brother, should have the credit to then all of a sudden now he can go from stop renting and buy.
That's awesome.
And then he's going to follow the same thing.
That's a good idea from like an agent perspective, is like to help people, find apartments and then, do it on the backside, like, hey, let me just buy you a house. Let me buy you a house, kind of a thing. Like just try and find those people who didn't even know there was a feasible option.
I like that.
That's what happened. So, you saw, that's how we started talking. I do a lot of things on Facebook because it's free. It's free advertising. And I just put out the stuff that I do. And then when people look at it and they start the conversation like you did and say, hey, that sounds cool, I've done stuff, or hey, I want to. Now I can take you, by being an agent, step by step and tell you, okay, you did this. And then it plays into the agent role. Now I can follow up with you after you FHA a year later and say, hey, just reaching out. Now it's time to move.
Yeah.
Capitalize on this.
Yes.
And then not only do I make another sale, yes, but like weigh the options.
You're getting closer to financial independence too. Like
the person is.
Yeah.
Right.
You're helping along that whole process.
Right. If you're my client, right, I make the small percentage, right? Everybody knows, you see it on the paper. You make the small commission. The person that's buying is now realizing they don't have to rent ever by having what they thought was a low credit score of 580. You can turn that 580 and 3.5% now into rent money that you're collecting.
Yep.
And I collect a small commission out of it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. So do you see yourself pursuing this full time? Like right now you're doing both jobs, but are you seeing like once your clientele gets to a certain level, leaving the restaurant, or do you that's the goal?
Yeah, probably all starting next year. So what the plan is, I'm setting it up that the beginning of the year, hopefully, I sell the 2 properties, branch out for more rentals to offset the income, and then I become the agent full time.
Mhm.
And then I hope that by doing, the little things like this, whatever else, posting, doing things, I generate more income that way, and I just take that and buy assets.
Yep.
And then
Build that
grow
snowball.
Yeah, man. That's
exactly.
That's awesome. So before we head out, like if you had like just a couple quick tips for anyone that's listening, that's like, right now, like they've listened to all of our podcasts, they know kind of they want to start moving in this direction. Like what tips do you have that, you could add value to these guys?
The number one that I see people do, don't settle renting. If you're going to settle anywhere, settle on buying it, because there's too much upside to it. Like, why would you settle? Everybody does it. They say, I'm going to rent for a year or two. Just buy it. Like, you're going to put more money out, yeah, but you write part of it off on your taxes. 2, it's going to take time. Like, and everybody's like, they want it all now. The pandemic's
people want to, I just put 30 grand down on this house. Why am I not a millionaire yet? It's like,
it's a get rich slow scheme
Yeah.
here, boys.
Yeah.
Exactly. And people don't realize, like, if you look back, the pandemic still, right? How long has it been? A year and a half?
Mhm.
A year? Imagine if you would have, instead of renting right before the pandemic, you would have just bought one house. The market appreciated. You could have just cashed out, refied, or borrowed against and moved again. Like, I think the other thing is they need to be more smart with their spending. Like, don't go buy the fancy car. Don't buy the whatever else, because that'll still be there 3 years from now.
Yep.
Buy the house, especially if, the audience, anybody, whatever age, 35, 40 and under, whoever, older, buy all the assets first and then let that pay for the stuff.
Yep.
Honestly, I feel bad for people when I see them like my age with really nice vehicles.
I'm like, you freaking
Because like
dingus.
the
like,
odds of you having enough money to actually be able to afford that and then like have the other assets to pay for that asset is so low. Like it's most likely, you saved up or you have just enough income to make that car payment.
Yep.
And it's like, dang, like you really kind of set yourself up for failure.
And it's like
long
in
term.
their mind, they're driving around like,
I'm living
dude,
lavish.
I'm
yeah.
up.
Yep.
And it's like,
Now look at that.
right.
So let's look at the person that just did that. They are perfectly fine. And everybody's done it. Like, you talk to anybody in this market, everybody's an expert and they tell you that they're waiting for the market to drop. But they will
Yeah.
go buy a new car and take it out on a 7-year loan and pay 8%.
Yep.
Right? Anybody will do it. Everybody's done it this whole time. They go and buy the brand new car. You lose the minute you drive it off the lot. You lose right away. But it's like, for some reason, people settle on everything. They settle on the car. They settle on whatever else. They settle on this and that.
And the rent.
Mm-hmm.
And the rent. Because nobody ever says, I'm going to rent a place for a year, then I move out. It's always 2. Always. Why would you not at least buy it and try to qualify for FHA and live in it for 1 year? Like, that's it.
Right. You're putting first month, last month security deposit down. It's
But
so
it's yours.
close.
Yeah.
It's so close to, it's like a little bit more than that to rent.
Yeah.
And now you have a FHA loan.
An FHA loan
Right.
with seller assist covering your closing costs is like identical to first month last at an apartment. Like
Yep.
having, granted you're not, paying for a $300,000-$400,000 place.
Right.
It's like sub 2.
Well, let's, like you said, so numbers, right? We'll use 200 grand. So everybody understands. You're talking $7,000 down.
Right.
That's a rent of $2,000 a month.
Yep.
Now, anybody that listens or knows, you go rent a place for $2,000 a month, you're looking 3-bedroom plus, but you can go buy 200 grand.
A whole duplex for that much.
Yep.
You can buy a duplex. And then the main part people don't realize is you go buy a duplex, that income on the other side gets added to you.
Yep.
So my other buyer, he got approved for $265. If you add $650 to his income, it goes to $350.
Yep.
that small number.
Yep, absolutely. Like that income you get, changes your debt to income ratio. So like 45% is what they limit you at for loans. So your loan cost per month can't exceed 45% of your income. So if you increase your income, like you said, $650, you said that was like $75,000 extra they could pay on a house. It sounded like what you said.
Exactly.
Like it's a massive difference there. So yeah, it's like,
And why? He bought the brand new car.
Yep.
wow.
I don't think people realize buying the house is hard. Buying the car is easy. You could buy 5 houses and they'll turn you down for the 6th, and they will still loan you 6 cars.
Yeah.
Well, you walk into a car dealership, you got guys that'll just like, do whatever they can, barring illegal activities
no matter what.
to get you that car, just sign the damn contract, take this car, it's crazy. So
Yeah, man. This is awesome. I come to the restaurant like all the time. I literally live on Penn. We have a duplex on Penn, like
Oh, okay. That's even
literally right next to you. So,
yeah.
but yeah, man, we really appreciate your time and you coming on. We'll definitely stay in touch, and best of luck
We'll
on.
have to do this again.
Yeah,
In, we'll say 1 year.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
way we record this.
yeah.
I said what I was going to do, and then we'll come back, and then we'll recap it.
We'll hold you to it, brother. We're all
All
growing,
right.
man. I appreciate it.
yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.
Take care. See you.